The reason it's lasted so long is because it's based on strategies as opposed to like one-hit wonders, as opposed to like short-term tactics. It's rooted in psychology and the way our brains work. And so the formula has been working for coming up on 30 years now, and it's going to keep on working for another 30, I think for 300.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. This is John Jantsch. My guest today is Jeff Walker. He's the creator of the product launch formula, revolutionized online marketing with a step-by-step process that has generated over $1 billion in launches. Since pioneering the concept in 1996, this formula has become the gold standard for online entrepreneurial training. He lives in my favorite state of Colorado, way down in the corner of Durango. He enjoys outdoor adventures and family. We're going to talk a little bit about his updated and revised version of his best-selling book, Launch: How to Sell Almost Anything Online, Build a Business You Love, and Live the Life of You. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. I'm really happy to be here.
Been a long time since you've been on the show, but fortunately, you and I got to bump into each other recently in Nashville, which was great, greatly connecting. So, for the two people that don't know, what is PLF?
PLF stands for Product Launch Formula. And it basically is a process and a system to launch your products online, whether you have an online course, a membership site, a coaching program, any type of training like that. It's also used for art and for books and even for widgets.
Awesome. So I always like to ask in a revised book, updated book, a lot. You're in the online space. A lot of stuff changes, every day in there. What would you say to somebody who bought the original version? Like, what's new?
Yeah. What really changed. So Product Launch Formula is the reason it's lasted so long. So as you mentioned earlier, I started developing it in the mid 90s. That was when I did my first launch, was in 1997, and developed it, started publishing this as a course in 2005. Came out with the first edition of the book in 2014. The reason it's lasted so long is because it's based on strategies as opposed to like one-hit wonders, as opposed to like short-term tactics. It's rooted in psychology and the way our brains work. And so the formula has been working for coming up on 30 years now, and it's going to keep on working for another 30, I think for 300 years. But the online world does change quite a bit. So with that in mind, I revised it. And really what I went into deep in the book is social media, which really there was no social media when I started out. And even in 2014, it was definitely a thing, but it wasn't a thing at the level it is now. And also paid traffic, the ability to, there's just great ad platforms that there weren't back in the day. So those are a couple of the really big things. And then one thing that's really changed is the timing of the sequences. So Product Launch Formula is built on sequences, and it's built on stories, sequences, and mental triggers. And in the sequences, it used to be there was this pre-launch sequence, and that was like the star of the show. And then you would actually open up and start taking orders. And that was almost an afterthought, that portion, what we call the open cart or the open cart sequence. And that has become the star of the show now. So a lot of the emphasis has shifted from, yes, I'd say it used to be the pre-launch with the open cart being an afterthought, and now the open cart is a full-on major sequence.
You mentioned when you were describing what it was, that you have a lot of, pretty big variety of use cases, right? But somebody might read the word formula and think, oh, there's one way to do it. How do you address that idea?
Yeah, it isn't, it's more like, I think that marketing is often there's a science and then there's the art. And within Product Launch Formula, there's certainly room for the art. Yeah. And as formulaic as I try to make it, because I'm teaching people to do it, and the people I'm teaching, some of them are starting from absolute ground zero, have never sold anyone anything, have never done any marketing whatsoever. So I have to assume that's where we're starting from. But as you get more experience, there's all kinds of room for creativity within the formula. The whole idea, it's about delivering value before the sale. It's about delivering. One of the ways I like to think about it is it's value before reveal.
Yeah.
And before you reveal the full extent of what your offer is, you've already built great value for people. And then there's this idea of desire before availability, where you're building up this desire before someone can get it. And if you look at the way, I mean, this is used in by big companies, like Apple does this so well.
Yeah. Yes.
And yeah, I mean, Hollywood does
People
it.
waiting around the block for, the new thing.
Right, exactly. And that is possible even if you don't have a budget
Okay.
like Apple has, or like the Hollywood studios have, or like the big gaming companies have. We can absolutely do that by putting together a pre-launch where you walk people through a series of, you define a problem that they have, whatever market or niche you're in, whether it's quitting smoking or learning meditation or having a better love relationship or building your business or hitting a better tennis serve. It doesn't matter. The people, they have, they're there, they're in your world because they want something different in their life.
Yeah.
And our job is to either is to deliver, is basically to take away pain or deliver pleasure to people. Give them more pleasure, take away pain from them. And so they have a series of problems. And if you can solve those problems through your pre-launch, and not like the big overarching problem, but if you can start to thin slice some of the things that are keeping them up at night, and you can define those problems really well, and then start to solve some of them in the pre-launch, then that just it builds trust, it builds relationship, but it also builds anticipation that they're going to want to get whatever the thing is.
Would you say that this sort of came about organically? Like, 1995, I was online then too. We were all trying to figure out, hey, how can I make money on this thing? So you created something, it worked. People started asking you, hey, Jeff, how'd you do that? I mean, would you say that's kind of it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, so like when I started, I was started publishing a newsletter in 1996. And it was about the stock market. And that's something I had some knowledge on. And John, I don't even think I ever told you this, but I started that newsletter, it was a free newsletter back when there weren't very many free newsletters. There weren't very
No,
many.
we call them easy or something
Yeah.
like that, right?
And right. And there weren't very many. And I think there was probably about 0 free ones about the stock market back then. There
Yeah.
might have been a couple, and I actually started publishing that because I needed to put something on my resume to help me get into grad school. So it's just, yeah, by this ridiculous path, people started subscribing to that newsletter. And then after I had about 6 or 8 or 900 people, and I'm like, oh, maybe they'll buy something from
Yeah.
me. But at that point, there was no teaching or training about marketing online. This is in 1996. It just didn't exist.
Yeah.
And I had no sales or marketing experience. And furthermore, I thought I had this messed up feeling about marketing and messed up feeling about sales, that if I asked them for money for something, that they would hate me. And I was like, and so I decided to romance them, and I gave them a whole bunch of really high quality content, and that gradually led into the sale. And that one seed of an idea has led, yeah, all these years later, my students have done $1 billion in sales. It's just ridiculous.
You mentioned the idea that there is a psychological strategy or psychological component to a lot of this. So you talk a lot about authority and scarcity, reciprocity. So how do you bake that in a way that doesn't seem manipulative, but also certainly does the job?
Yep. So there's all these mental triggers, and the pre-launch gives you this amazing time to use those triggers. And
Yeah.
the one of them, authority you mentioned, and that's, you absolutely have to lead with authority anytime you're doing any type of marketing, even if you're just doing content marketing. If you're just people to try to pay attention to your message out in social, you have to establish some authority, or else there's just no reason for them to pay attention to you. So anytime, any presentation you give of any sort,
Mhm.
anywhere, you have to tell people why they should pay attention to you. Now, there's elegant ways to do this, and there's clumsy ways to do it.
Yeah, like
And
the picture in front of your jet.
yeah, right, right, exactly. And I think one of the best ways to do it is to deliver real value and to show up and know what you're talking about. Like, not have the intro that I just had on this podcast where I was stumbling over myself trying to describe what PLF was. But yeah, so I think authority is a big one you want to lead with. And like reciprocity is a mental trigger where if you give something to someone, they want to give something back to you. And that, when you're giving true value in your pre-launch and it doesn't cost anything, that's not manipulative. You're
Right.
just giving value, but it does develop reciprocity.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think with a lot of any type of marketing, there's ways, to go to the dark side. And I hope my clients aren't doing that because I think, the reality is if you just show up and you deliver real value, you've automatically built up authority
Yeah.
and you've built up reciprocity and you've built up likability. And so, yeah, those triggers are built
Yeah.
right in all the way through the process.
Where I see people, what I was talking about, I'm sure none of your students do this, but we've all seen sale ends at midnight every day for the next, 6 months. The sale ends at midnight, right? And so it's just, it's just manipulative. It's not, it's not honest and authentic. So tell me this, you have had lots of success, but I'm sure that you have heard from a person or two, this just doesn't work, Jeff, for me. Like, what are the common mistakes, that people make when they, invest in your program, start to try to follow it? Where do you see them fall down if you do?
I think there's a couple ways, and one of them is the people that are just amazing salespeople, and the incredible salespeople. Often they have like a sales message there or pitch that they're
Yeah.
used to giving. And as an aside, I don't like the word pitch. I always use the word offer. So I'm
Right.
using that intentionally here where these folks have a pitch. And
Yeah.
what they do is they're like, oh, pitch. And I see in your formula, you usually put out like 3 pieces of pre-launch content. Well, I'll take my pitch and I'll just cut it into 3 pieces. I'll take my webinar and I'll,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
make it three 20-minute segments instead of a 60-minute segment. That's not following the formula. That's not
Yeah.
delivering value. So I think the people that are just really good at selling, and I don't consider myself one. I'm really good at marketing. I've gotten pretty darn good at selling, but it's been a long journey for me to get there. But the people that are just natural salespeople, the ones that can sell sand in a desert, they get into trouble
Yeah.
because
They
they're like,
don't, they don't want to waste the time on all that other stuff.
right, exactly. I mean, maybe they don't need to. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe they don't need to. And so that's one. And the other one is where people they just get enamored with is, oh, deliver value before the sale. I love that. And then they just teach and teach and
Yeah.
teach.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
if I teach like if you say I'll put out 3 pieces of pre-launch content, I know I'll do like three-hour trainings. And so they don't actually follow the formula because the reality is you can easily overteach. And when you overteach, when you're asking people to invest a lot of time with you before they've really truly chosen to invest with you monetarily, but also
Yeah.
emotionally and
Right.
intellectually.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're just like, I'll tell you what, for free, just give me your email and I'm going to give you a Harvard MBA. It's going to take you about 3 years to get through it, but that's okay because it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And even if you delivered that, no one, when they give you an email, is prepared to spend 3
Right.
years getting an MBA. And
Yeah.
the same, they're not going to go through 3 or 4 hours of training with you until you've moved them forward.
Or establish some value in that. Right. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
not going to invest the time because I don't know if it's any good. Right.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, all right. What do you tell the person that says, well, okay, I don't have any, I don't even have a course. Can I like make this work or do I need to go to work on sort of the pre stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so I think first of all, you need to start anyone who's building an online business, anyone who's building any business, you need to start to build an audience. And I would start that immediately. And you can, the great thing is you can start that on social these days.
Right.
But then you want to move people off of social onto an email list. So you want to start to build that audience. And as you build that audience, I consider myself a publisher.
Hmm.
That's like when I'm on the ski lift and someone asks me what I do, I'm a publisher. That's what I do. Is I put out, well, these days often it's video, but I put words and
Yeah.
thoughts and video out into the world. And I think we all need to do that. And the great thing is when you're just starting out and you don't have an audience yet, you don't have to be amazing. Like, John, you and I were at this point now where if we're going to publish something, there's an expectation that we're going to be pretty good because we're experts in our field. We're perceived as experts in our field. But when you're first starting out, no one's paying attention. You have time to practice and get your chops down and find your voice and find the hooks in
Yeah.
your message and find what it is you're going to bring to the world. I think that almost every one of us, I think probably every one of us has something we can bring to the world that we can teach. Something that people what do people come to you to ask you about? What seems like incredibly easy to you, but seems hard to other people. And some of the niches that people have had success in, John, there was two guys, they had a six-figure launch, so $100,000 launch, teaching people how to scream. And I was like, they wrote in, after they went through the course, they did this launch, they wrote in, they said, yeah, we taught them screaming. And I'm like, okay, we got to get these guys on a call and find out what this is. And it turns out that I'm like, it's for screaming for like heavy metal, for heavy metal
Uh-huh.
vocalists, how to
Okay. I
scream.
was going like some sort of mental health release or something, but
But turns out there's a technique for it, and they knew how to do it, so they taught it.
yeah.
We had someone teaching sword fighting, it's just, it goes on and on, the different types of things. So I think pretty much all of us have something we can bring to the world. I am a big fan of this what I call a wisdom business where whatever you spent time learning how to do,
Yeah.
you could show other people how to do it.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, I think a lot of people underestimate this idea that everybody's on the continuum of their journey somewhere. So like people that have read all the books and gone to all the courses, maybe they're farther along in their journey, but there's definitely people back here starting their journey that you can teach something to. I
Yeah.
think that's a lot of times when people, they read your book and they think, I got to be like that. But, Jeff serves a certain audience. There's a whole lot of people out there that your stuff, they're not ready for your stuff.
Right. And the reality is there's more people at the beginning. There's more beginners than in any market because everyone starts as a beginner, right? If you're teaching guitar, there's some people that are masters, there's Eric Clapton, the masters, but there's a lot more people that just bought the guitar because everyone starts. Eric Clapton bought a guitar one day. Everyone starts and only a few people get to the expertise. So there, it's like a pyramid. There's just more beginners in any field.
Yeah. I hesitate. We're about at the end of our time. I hesitate at opening up this door. But how has AI impacted what you do and what marketers do in your view?
Well, obviously we're still in the second inning in the AI revolution, I think.
Yeah.
So we don't know where it's going to go. I just have no idea. Right now, where it's at is, I think it's great for ideation.
Yeah.
It is absolutely amazing. I've spent my life for the last 30 years becoming a very good copywriter. I'm
Yeah.
really good at putting words together that convince people to move forward with me. And those words might be delivered via an email, via a blog post, via social media, or a script that I say on video. And it's something I do. I'm great at. I'm proud of. But it's not necessarily an easy thing to do. I've spent 3 decades getting better at it. But right now you can use AI and cut out the first 80% of that. So I think it makes it a lot
Plus,
easier.
you can tell it to write like Gary Halbert. Well,
Yeah,
so-
yeah. And it won't write like Gary Halbert. In fact, John, just in the last week, I was going back and reading the old Gary Halbert letters. He's just, for those of you who don't know, Gary Halbert's one of the legends of copywriting. He's passed away quite a number of years ago now, but one of the absolute legends. But I think AI can get you the first 80% there. AI can help you design a course. AI can help you brainstorm hooks. AI can help you brainstorm lead magnets. It's
pain points.
yeah,
Yeah,
right. Get to
the
know
market.
your avatar. Yeah.
Yeah. I find it really good at, it's terrible at creating original content in my view right now. But it's pretty good at repackaging your good original content. And so for me, for a lot of marketers, you start with something really good. And now because we want to maybe, or it makes sense for us to participate in a lot of different platforms, you can actually take that original content and make it fit for the platform. But again, you can't tell it, write me a 700-word blog post on X, or it'll be pretty garbage.
Right. But like something like a lot of people struggle with is like avatar research.
Yeah.
So our avatar is your ideal client. And because of a lot of us are more advanced, like if you are the guitarist who's
Yeah.
like this amazing guitarist now, and you're trying to remember what it was like to be a newbie because you want to teach some newbies,
That's right.
it's hard to remember what it's like. But you can go to AI and ask AI what it's like to be a newbie and
Yeah.
what the concerns are and what the hopes and dreams and fears are. And it's really good at that.
Yeah. And I think the hopes and fears and dreams when I picked up the guitar had more to do with Patty McCormick than learning how to play the guitar. Like a lot of junior high guitarists, right?
Right. Right.
Well, Jeff, it was awesome catching up with you. Where can people find more about your work and certainly pick up a copy of the updated and revised launch?
The book is called Launch. It's available anywhere books are sold, including Amazon, and there's all the different types of versions there. And then you can find more about the product launch formula at productlaunch.com. I've always got all kinds of great free resources there for you to have.
Yeah, and depending upon when you're listening to this, I know you have kind of a new launch of PFL coming up, and we will let people know where that is. But again, depending upon when you listen to this, you can find the latest and greatest.
John, this is great. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hopefully, we'll run into you one of these days out there on Highway 50.